And welcome everyone. My name is Zach Beach, and this is my flyer, Junjun Lee. And I wanted to guide you through a fun and relaxing 30-minute Acroyoga therapeutic flying session. Now, 30 minutes is a very long time, so feel free to take breaks as needed. And always communicate with your partner. So if anything feels uncomfortable, feel free to come out of the pose. And this is a fairly advanced sequence, so if you're new to acro, definitely have a spotter with you to make sure the flyer doesn't fall. And if you've never done this before, I highly recommend getting a teacher to help guide you, take some classes before you're comfortable doing this entire sequence. So to start, bases, I'll have you come onto your back. And then very simply present your feet to your flyer. Flyers will take their hands to the base's shins. Base will offer their hands, and flyers will bend their elbows until your hands meet their clavicles. And I haven't lifted up my flyer just yet. Notice their feet are perfectly on the ground. And then with these strong 4 points of contact, I'm going to straighten my legs. From here, the flyer will take their hands behind their back and grab their elbows. And then the flyer will bend their legs and bring their toes together. Okay. This is a very safe, very fun position to bring in some nice, gentle twists. And you have the option to bend one arm, one leg, or one arm and one leg. So if I just bend my right arm and keep my left arm straight, it brings him into a very gentle twist. And I can do the opposite direction, so I straighten my right arm, and then I bend my left arm while keeping my right arm straight. Straight limbs will make this very easy for the base. So if you keep your legs and arms straight that need to be, you shouldn't have to put too much effort to keep your flyer in the air. So that's one arm. I can do one leg as well. So I can bend my left leg. And notice all my other limbs stay straight. So my arms are straight this time. And my right leg is straight as well. And then I straighten my left leg. And I bend my right leg. So that's bending just one limb, but you can also combine it. So I'm going to bend my left leg. And then bend my right arm. So opposite arm, opposite leg, which will bring them into a deeper twist. And then straighten both arm and leg and do the opposite. So I bend my right leg and I bend my left arm. And then I straighten both my arms and my legs. And next we can easily transition to a folded leaf. As a base, I'm going to relax my flyer by releasing my hands. Flyer will then relax their arms and extend their legs. And all the flyer needs to do is focus on keeping that hinge in the hips, almost like there's two buckets of water on the ankles. The ankles are drawing down to the mat. And that provides a nice shelf for the base, some nice stability for the base. And now you have the whole back available to you, so it's nice to just start with some gentle massage, some gentle loving touch on the back. You can work in the mid-spine. You can also get deeper into the shoulders as well as the trapezius. And there's some other poses that will also be really nice for some trap massage. So you can also save some of that for later. But you can work your way all the way down the arms as well. You can massage the delts, the biceps and triceps, the forearms, and all the way to the hands too. So feel free to continue to the wrists and even the palms. And next, we'll try some side bends. So I'm going to take my hands underneath my flyer's arms and bring them all the way up. My hands are above their elbows, so closest to the shoulder. And the flyer will bring their palms together, take their palms behind their head, drop the chin to the chest, and then I'll bring their elbows together. From here, I'll take them over to my left, their right. And the goal here is to feel a nice side body stretch in their left side. You can even encourage that. If you're able to take both elbows into one hand, you can encourage that with the opposite arm. And then you can switch to the other side if it's possible. So now they get a nice right side body stretch. But even just staying in the center, you can encourage your flyer to really melt their heart here. It's very similar to a puppy pose that we feel in our yoga practice. From here, my hands are already on their elbows, so I can switch my grip and actually grab the elbow sockets with my thumb and pointer finger. And it's nice just to give them a little shake to really encourage the body to relax. And then you can bring them into a twist from here. So depending on their flexibility, maybe they twist just a little bit. If you want to twist them deeper, then their arm goes through your leg. And if you want to go even deeper, the arm is going to go all the way to the outside of your leg. That's up to you. And of course, any pose, you got to remember the counter pose. So maybe they just go to the outside of your leg, maybe through, or maybe all the way to the other side. Maybe some pushing is involved. Notice I can lock my knee behind their shoulder blade and bring them into a very deep twist when I lock in their other shoulder with my right hand. All right, and we'll do one more traction because I love this pose here. I'm going to slide my hands through and wrap my arms around their ribs, and then I'm going to lean them away with my legs as I pull with my hands. Usually feels really good for the flyer. And really, you can take as much time as you need in any of these poses. The flyer is just floating there in blissful space. As long as the base, you're not feeling too tired, feel free to hold any of these poses for longer. And next, we'll transition to kind of a walnut pose by lifting our flyer up. The flyer will bend their legs and bring the soles of their feet together again, like we started. Bend the legs. And then their flyer will reach through the base's legs and grab their own ankles. So you might have to make some space for them to fit. And then once they go through your legs, you can straighten them. And then they're hanging out, having a good time. And now you have more of the back available to you for any additional massaging that you want to do. So before, it was easy to target the upper back and upper shoulders. And now we can focus a little bit more on the low back, low shoulders. And I can just lean their weight into my hands. And that basically is the same action as pressing would do. And feel free to get creative. So you could just palm, you could finger, you could also do some light circles on the erector spinae or some of those back muscles. You can always check in with their flyer if they're feeling tight anywhere, if they've been feeling pain anywhere, and target those particular areas. Maybe even you can use your fists if you want even kind of more of a deep tissue type of experience. There's a lot of possibility here to play around in this pose to really give your flyer an awesome experience. All right, our next task is to turn our flyer around. So we do what's kind of known as a turntable move. I kind of turn my hands like I would a steering wheel. Now I'm going to use my left hand on their upper shoulders and my right hand on their sacrum, but of course you can choose whichever hands work best for you. And I start to turn them, and you're welcome to keep one foot for balance. Maybe you have kind of a light flyer. You could hold them there in space. But if you need that one foot, feel free to do a little switch. And then we have them nicely set in kind of a straddle bat, where we're going to keep them holding on to their ankles. It makes the pose a lot more stable for everyone. Now we really got the traps available to us. We also have the neck, the head, and the ears, and you can apply whatever juicy massages that you want. So I usually start with the neck because it's just right there, and it pretty much feels good for almost anyone because you have the additional benefit of gravity pulling on the head, and then just light traction in the hands can really help a lot of people release tension in their neck. And then once you've done the neck, the ears are another lovely place to go. And you might even notice the face is there too. So if you know your way around the face, you know some face massages, you can feel free to do the face as long as your hands are relatively clean. You can do the eyebrows, the temples. Again, focus on what feels good for you and the flyer. And then there's different ways to get into the traps. So an easy way is just to thumb. So I can easily just press my thumbs side to side right into the trapezius. Those muscles that really form that trapezoid shape, connecting the shoulders, the spine, and the neck. But another really lovely release I love to do on the shoulders is I take my right hand and I go behind their head all the way to their left shoulder. And then my arm stays straight, but my left leg bends, which brings their weight of the shoulder into my hand. And that really releases the neck nicely. So if they really release the shoulder a little bit, you can find some nice neck traction as well. Those of you that know Thai massage might notice a lot of these poses are very similar. You can do many of these things when they're sitting up, but now we let gravity do most of the work. Be sure to balance your flyer. So after that side, I do the other side. My left hand spins around, grabs onto shoulder, and I bend my right leg. And then one more pose I'll show you in this position is a nice little heart opener. So if I bend my legs so my knees are behind them, I can bend my legs even more, and there's a nice shelf. And then I can continue to let the heart expand by opening up this way. All right, so next our pose is going to be a hammock pose. So from here, the base, you need to lift themselves up with both of your hands. Once they're lifted up, instruct your flyer to release their ankles. And as they do, your feet will start to shift behind them. And as they release their feet away from them, you can scoot in behind and you can catch behind the knee. And flyers, just remember to bend your knees, keep your butt low. And then suddenly you're in a nice, lovely hammock. So many things happen in this pose that feel really good. As a base, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. So just having the flyer have their arms out wide will be a really nice heart opener. And if they really encourage the legs to release, nice hip release. But if you are feeling called to bring more movement to this pose, you can easily bend one leg and keep the other leg straight. And then you can do the opposite way. And then if you're more of an experienced base, you can combine that movement with a little glute massage with your knee. So I'm going to bring her a little bit lower so then my knee goes into her glute. And then I can bend, and then there's a little bit of a glute massage also with the knee. Maybe even some circles with that leg. And other side, drop the knee. And even with your hands, there's different things that you can do. So after you straighten the arms and hands again, I could have them turn a little bit to one direction and turn a little bit into the other direction. So this is what is known as a high hammock, and we can also do a low hammock. So to do that, I'm going to transition from being on my hands to being on my forearms, and I'm going to cup the back of the head. So I start to lower my flyer down. Then one hand goes behind the head, other hand goes behind the head. And a lot of fun things you can do in this pose. Just my palms at the occiput, where the back of the neck meets the skull, can provide some really nice traction. And also your elbows in the upper back can give a nice massage. So sometimes I even lower my flyer even more, press my elbows into their back. I'll start to open up the heart. And then again, if you bend and straighten your legs in different ways here, your knees are most likely in your flyer's glutes, so they can again get a nice massage in that way. And as a base, really take your time, really move slowly. It's tempting to rush through all of these sequences, but the slower you are, the more your flyer can relax. And they really don't need too much fancy movement or rocking, because really they want to just surrender and relax. Now this transition back up is a little tricky. I tend to use my head as I move my hands. So notice I lift my head, support them briefly so that my hands can then return to the upper shoulders. So from here we come to the back bend. I shift so that both of their legs are on one foot, and that way my other foot can come to their low back. So I tend not to go right to the back bend. It's nice to warm your flyer up a little bit by bending one leg and then straightening the other leg. So almost bringing them into a bow, but not quite yet. And after you've warmed them up a bit, then you can bring them into a full back bend. Now, if your flyers aren't very flexible in their back, have your toes out wide and then keep your arms straight. And then they don't have to come nearly as deep as if your toes were in and they were just hanging there. So, but meanwhile, you might have other flyers hypermobile, they do Cirque du Soleil, and then you can really deepen their back bend, maybe even taking their foot like behind your shins. But we'll save that for another video. So again, most people experience a lot in this pose. There's not a lot of fancy things you need to do. But if you're feeling caught to bring more movement, you can turn them a bit. So you can turn them a little bit more at the shoulders. Notice I'm not going too crazy here. The thoracic has a little bit more movement than the lumbar. So if I'm going to bend at the legs, it's going to be so subtle. It's going to be like a centimeter. My left leg just bent. You might not be able to see that. But you don't want to go too crazy because the body's already in a deep back bend. So feet only move like a centimeter or two, and hands only move, say, an inch or two. All right, our next task is to turn our flyer around for a high-flying whale. So I usually take one hand so I can shift them sideways. Then one foot can come to the low back, and one foot can come to the upper shoulders or behind the head. Now, if you're feeling called, you can also let them hang out in this position for a while. It's totally fine. Or continue on your merry way all the way to a high-flying whale. So if you want to give your partner less of a back bend, flex your feet. If you want to give your partner more of a back bend, point your feet. Or just find that sweet spot right in the middle. Again, base is focused on stability here, focused on not shaking around too much because this is a vulnerable position for your flyer. So if you want them to relax, you have to really be that solid and stable foundation. And then if you really want your fly to hang out even more, I'm going to bend their legs and place their feet on my knees. And then I don't even need my hands at all. So that's pretty cool. It's always nice and kind of fun to give them a little tour of the room if you want. Facing one direction, facing the other direction. And then we can come back to our high flying whale. So our next transition will be to shift from a high flying whale to a low flying whale. And to do that, we put one foot in the middle of our flyer's back so that the other foot can come down. And then my other foot is going to go right behind their shoulder. I lower them down onto that knee, and then I switch the other leg too. Now I actually like to support my flyer's head also with my feet. That's a little advanced, so feel free to just have their head hanging. But sometimes flyers get a lot of blood in their head, so if you can lift up their head in any position, it can be really nice. So this pose is really nice because your knees are right in the low back, and you can apply some nice traction for them in that way. And it's also a nice time to really massage the legs a little bit. So if you want to free up your hands, you can bend their legs and place their feet on your own chest. And then you can have their legs available to you. So you can massage the calves. You can massage the quads, the thighs. And some gentle rocking in this case is also really nice. And then we're going to very slowly transition them onto the ground. So let me show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to grab their ankles, return to them a low flying whale. My main concern here is I don't want to hit my flyer's head to the ground. So you have to do it very slowly, lift up with the ankles as much as you can, and make sure not to knock their heads. And as I sit up, I'm going to bring their legs to my shoulders as well. So I'm going to slowly sit up, slowly. My feet come to the earth, their head is supported. And then once I come up, their knees come to my shoulders. And then all I need to do is scoot back as I sit down. And then here we are. So they're still kind of in the air. We'll slowly transition them to the ground. Now is a great time to release the legs. Some people, this is actually like a Thai massage position. You kind of put their legs down and do some fun things with their body. But it's kind of an intimate position, so I try not to stay in there for too long. So we're going to transition with 2 side-to-side twists. I'm going to cross the right leg over the left and bring them into the twist, having their knees go to their right, my left, and then I can twist them. Notice my other hand is grounding at the shoulder. And because the knees are to the right, she's looking to the right. Now is when I get to release out my right leg. So I'm going to slowly release my right leg. And then when we untwist, now my flyer is on the ground. And I can go the opposite direction. And now just my leg is there, so I can remove that. I shift the hips. And I bring them into the opposite twist. And then once I bring them back to center, now my flyer is completely on the ground. So I'm going to bring their knees to their chest as I slowly but surely come up to standing. And there they are. So now they're back on the ground. And there's anything anything that you like to do with your person on the ground, any Thai massage you might know or other poses you might know, feel free. I'm a big fan of the SI joint massage by bringing their knees over their hips and pressing a little bit into one knee and pressing a little bit into the other knee. I'm a big fan of the back traction, so I extend their legs out. I step in with one foot and I bring their feet where my butt meets my thigh. I call it the thut, and I lean back a few times. It's also always nice to get them a little bit of a foot massage. So if you take their feet, lift them up into legged up the wall pose, then you can tap, press into their feet as much as you want. It's also nice to give them a little shake. And yeah, any Thai massage that you want to do here. Now they're on the ground, and you can add whatever you want. Leaning to one side, pulling, leaning to the other side, pulling is also really great. And as you bring their feet to the ground, some backward circles can be really nice, particularly for the hips. Be sure to go both directions. Before you lower down, some internal, external rotation of the hip can also be really nice. You can gently lay their feet on the ground. And some loving touch and kind attention can really help here. Just grounding the feet down, grounding your flyer down. And then it's always nice to finish with 3 final sweeps. So starting at the as-is bones, you can sweep down the legs. And then, of course, it's always nice to just finish with a short meditation, simply breathing together, taking your hands to your heart, and sending your metta or loving kindness to your partner. Wishing them well, wishing them happiness, freedom, joy, extending your heart to theirs, bowing in reverence. Namaste. So there you have it. Remember, rule number 1, be safe. Use a spotter if you need. Take breaks if you need. Take some small cushions or crash pads around you. Even with the spotter can really help. And rule number 2, if it feels good, you're doing it right. So be sure to check in with your partner, see if they want more, see if they want less. Thanks so much for joining me for this video. My name is Zach Beach. To learn more about me, head to zachbeach.com. Namaste.